What's up, DAW Nation? My name is Wyatt Troy, and I want to welcome you to episode 9 of Behind the DAW, where we interview music producers, artists, music industry experts, people of that nature on an emotional, philosophical, artistic, and music business basis. This is a companion podcast to our YouTube series In the DAW, where we invite artists to come dissect their songs in real time. We've had people like AU5, Fox Stevenson, Said the Sky, Mode Step, Grabbits, a whole slew of other people. If you're interested in that, there's a link in the description that you can click on that to see all the episodes that we've done thus far. Also, there's a link for every Behind the DAW episode as well if you want to check that out. 3 things really quick before I get into who we are interviewing this week. These 3 things I'm going to mention, they're all links in the description. The first link is the Patreon. In the DAW, Behind the DAW will always be free, but if you want to support us on Patreon for $1 a month and get access to private Discord community of music producers, thank you. Thank you for even thinking of that. So go ahead and check that out. There's another link in the description for suggestions. If you want to see a certain artist or music industry expert or producer or whoever come on the show, go ahead and click that link and tell us all the people that you want to see come on. And then the final link is for private lessons. If you want private lessons in electronic music production or social media marketing, go ahead and check that out. Who do we got today? Who's the special guest today? His name is SCARlit. You might know him by Big Jer or Jerry DeFilippo. I think I said his name right this time. I've said it wrong like 90% of the time. Anyways, he's a good guy. He was my favorite teacher at Icon Collective. This guy is so freaking smart. And as we get into the interview, you'll understand why. He's very creative. So what are some of the things that we're going to be talking about today? Unique branding, especially with creating a story around your brand. You look at some of the most powerful brands in the world, and it's around a story. Like a continual story where you can fall into who the hero is, what's going on, plot twists, so on and so forth. I don't see it enough in our industry, and I would love to see it more. That's one of the things we're going to be talking about. Another thing that we're going to be talking about is augmented reality and how we can utilize that in a live performance sense. See what I'm saying? You're performing up on stage, someone pulls up an app on their phone, they look at you and they see like monsters crawling around you or something, like something crazy like that. That's going to be super amazing when that technology is available to all of us. Also, we're going to talk about balancing work and social life. Man, come on. You know, every single person struggles with that. I probably struggle with it more than anyone else I know of. We're going to be talking about that. Also, if you like this episode or if you don't like this episode, please comment down in the subscription so that we can make this the best podcast possible for you. Please subscribe, repost, follow, whatever is appropriate on the particular platform that you're listening on, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, Deezer, YouTube, wherever you are. It just helps us know that what we're doing is legitimate for your needs. So with all that out of the way, and without further ado, I want to introduce you to SCARlit. Thank you so much to Jerry DeFilippo. Did I say it right this time?
DeFilippo, yeah, it's close enough.
So close. Okay, DeFilippo. I'm gonna get it one time.
You're
to
probably
Jerry,
closer than I am. I probably Americanized it,
I just want to give a big thanks to Jerry for coming on the show again, especially with such short notice to do the podcast version. I'm really excited for this next week. It's Icon graduation, and me and my wife and my daughter and my son, who is in my wife's womb currently, are going to come out. We're going to see Jerry. We're going to give him a big hug. And
can't wait. I'm going to give you a big hug too, man. I can't wait.
Thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, dude. First off, for those who don't know, I love, dude, like I can't speak enough about your brand, about the SCARlit brand, about how it's inspired me to create a story around mine. So for those who don't know, very, very quickly, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what SCARlit is, the imagery, the idea behind it, if that's all right.
Of course. Yeah, it's a fun concept. I've always been into post-apocalyptic horror, sci-fi type stuff, and recently I came across this term called shedding. And shedding, it's the thought of where one could put his consciousness in. Well, recently it's another body. So it's thinking about like if Einstein or somebody that was one of these intellects of our or like think about like Michelangelo. Like what if he had 2 lifetimes to live? That would be he would get twice as much done. It'd be crazy. So in that vein, I was thinking about, okay, so in this world, we know that the end of the world is happening and everybody's trying to figure out what they're going to do. The main character, has figured out a way to shed his consciousness into like what's called a SCAR unit, but it's basically like a robot that will be able to live in this Fallout world. At the last minute, he's ready to put his consciousness into this big SCAR unit, but something happens and the house collapses on it, and he's got the SCARlit model, the prototype model that he's been working on, and with no time left, he's forced to put his consciousness or shed his consciousness into this SCARlit model. And it's interesting because SCARlit, my brand is spelled SCAR and then LIT is smaller letters. So it's like the SCARlit model. But also this individual will now reawaken and be able to see this new world through SCARlit eyes. And that's why I kind of have that, wake up dead to a broken world. That's going to be the EP name when it comes out, because you'll be waking up, but your body will be dead, but your consciousness will still be alive. And it's kind of an interesting take on it, I guess.
I love that so much, man. I just want you to know. So I brought up this exact idea to both Diamond Eyes and AU5 the other day when we were doing the podcast version, just similar to what we're doing now. It literally gave all of us cold chills because it's just this idea, because you bring up this amazing idea. The music industry or artistry or whatever in electronic music is no longer tied to just a dope song. It's tied to as deep as you want it to go. If all you want is a dope song, a cool song, a song that gives you vibes, high five, that's great. But if you want something deeper, if you want something so much more rich and I can't think of the word to explain it. If you want something, I don't know. You said it best.
Immersive, really.
Yeah, exactly. If you want an entire world to fall into, you know what I mean? Like, this is fantastic. And we as producers, we as writers, we as creators, what better people to think of new worlds to fall into? You know what I mean?
Artists like Excision, he's an amazing artist, but I think he's bigger than life, because when you think of him, you don't think of him, right? You think of that big X, you think of all of that crazy, like it's almost like him and Datsik did this sort of thing where when you looked at their artwork, it was almost like you're not subscribing to an artist, you're subscribing to almost like a graphic novel, but it's like a audio graphic novel where it's way more than just an artist. And that, again, I think if you dig the rabbit hole just a little bit deeper, I think people will be more than happy to go down.
This is incredible. So my question with you is this: how are you now applying this entire story to your music? So I have a theory, and then I want you to tell me if my theory is wrong. My theory is that you basically you wrote this story, and I think you're continuing to write this story episode by episode, movie by movie, whatever term you want to use. And I think now you're basically that's going to be your box of creative ideas to dig from. So if the SCAR unit in one thing has to save a different world that's going to end the same way that its world was going to end, now you write a song around it. I mean, like, am I on the right track? Is that how?
Oh, 100%. I think what we're seeing right now is I've had a few songs left over from before, so I'm releasing them as we go. But yes, very, very soon. Even I'm trying to do it now too, but very soon. Yes, every piece of my artwork, every song will be another, like you said, snapshot into this world. And that's kind of why I've designed it this way, because right now you don't know much about what's going on at all. So I could basically just, with all the art that I've put up so far, it's basically just snapshots into the world. You don't really know too much yet. Even when you look at the logo on my SoundCloud, it's sort of covered in smoke and you're like, what is that? It's sort of cool. I don't really know. But as the flower opens up, you will start to become very familiar with all the inner workings of this. And just like you said, right now, since this was a quote unquote prototype model, well, it's very incomplete. So now what if one song, this is just hypothetical, what if one song, maybe I find a voice box and I could learn how to talk now, and I could be like vocoding all kinds of stuff now, and I can almost give this SCAR unit its own voice, right? So it would be like almost kind of like a singer of a band, but not really. And what if like also the shape of this looks like a head to me, right? What if further in the story, he was able to forge himself a body? Maybe he's walking around in a year or so. Like, who knows, right? Like, that's kind of the that's kind of the point of this story. I started it out, and we don't know anything more than the world has ended, and now I'm going to start looking through this world in this SCAR unit or whatever. And that's all we know so far. It's very open-ended. It can go anyway, and I'm kind of open to that too. I kind of want it to be organic. I want to kind of put it out there and then see how it evolves. And I do all my own artwork and all my own everything. So it's like it's okay. It's okay to like take this organic thing, because I don't think I'm tied to anything, if that makes sense. I could very easily mold this to whatever kind of is the way it's going to open up. But I definitely have an idea. It's kind of like what's that Larry David thing? It's Curb Your Enthusiasm, right? Like they have an idea what the scene's going to be about, but they don't know exactly what it's going to be about going into it.
I actually have like this idea that we can apply to this, like, you know, the story, basically like this new generation of bringing music to the consumer. So a couple weeks ago when they had the Apple event, so what they're doing is now obviously with iPhones and stuff, gaming is getting more and more intense, more and more better, yada yada yada. But what they're talking about now is augmented reality games. So similar to that of what basically the world saw with Pokemon Go. You know, like when Pokemon Go came out, you know what I mean? You could, oh man, there's a freaking Pikachu in my yard, even though you never found a Pikachu. You know what I mean? And it's there. You could see it. You could see your trees and your plants, but the Pikachu is there. So basically they've gotten better at that now, where basically you can play a game. You can take the camera on your phone and basically turn the camera on so it's looking at your desk, but all of a sudden, you know, like let's say you're playing, I don't know, Clash of Clans or something like that. Is that a real thing?
I think it's a thing.
Yeah. Or like, you know, like it's one of those types of games. Well, basically you can see everyone playing on your desk. My thinking to this is, you know, an application that I can see, especially with a brand like yours, is like when you're performing live, you can basically have someone come with and code something. So if people want, they can go augment reality, where they can like basically, you know, they can look up at you and see you performing, or they can go augmented reality and turn their phone on and all of a sudden see all these graphics through their phone as well. You see what I'm saying?
Like you could be like looking at the screen. People look at the performance mostly through the screen anyway when they're videoing. And like you could see, you're right, all this extra stuff.
Exactly. You know, like you let's say, you know, in one of your songs, the SCAR unit is fighting some mythical creature that's like super intense and aggressive, kind of like, you know, the artwork that you sent the other day for Hood Rat, right? It had this tiger robot looking thing. You know what I mean? What if in the song, the SCAR unit is fighting that? So you code that so that, you know, people with the augmented reality function on their phone can look up and can see the SCAR unit and the tiger basically fighting on stage. You know what I mean? It's like,
that'd be wicked cool.
Exactly. It's like a whole nother dimension of entertainment at that point. And to me, that gives me cold chills, because that's freaking insane. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I had another question for you pertaining to this. So something that's very common with people who write series, especially very successful series that we see in television and movies and whatnot, basically what they do, from my understanding, is that they come up with the initial idea for the series. And then what they do is they skip forward. They kind of project forward in time what they want the very end series to look like. And then what they do is basically fill in the gaps along the way. Yeah. So like, you know, for example, let's take Harry Potter. So they give the idea of like this kid, he lived through this curse that he shouldn't have lived through. Parents die, whatever. And then you look at the very end, he overcomes everything. He loses friends along the way, so on and so forth. He does really well in school, whatever. I can't remember all the details, but basically like that's the idea. And then J.K. Rowling went back and filled all the things. And I actually don't know if she did that, but that's kind of the overall idea. Is that what you're doing with your brand right now, or have you thought about that?
No, I haven't thought about how it's going to end at all. No idea how it's going to end, because I don't really know what the problem is yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the adversity yet? Like, I'm like, this is sort of chapter one. We're kind of I'm just kind of getting my feet wet. I'm kind of learning the world myself, kind of learning what's going on out there. Are there going to be robots to be fought right yet, or what survived? I'm sure people survived in some degree or another, right? The really rich people probably got underground, right? So we're probably going to find people eventually. Another thing I was thinking of is making it to where I released the blueprints to the world. You see what I'm saying? Like right before the end. And then maybe like somebody was able to make another SCAR unit. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's a lot of ideas in my head about which way I want to go with this. But no, I definitely don't have an end in my mind right now.
And to be honest, maybe that's more liberating for you, because then you're not tied to a specific scenario at the end. It's just like you're kind of naturally letting it grow as the process goes. Does that make sense?
It does. And unlike a story, I don't want this to have an end, because an end puts an end on the music too, doesn't it? And end on me, like kind of in a sense. So I don't really want to have an end to this. I want this to be something. I want this to be a world that we're living in, and there isn't really any. I don't think there's going to be a certain problem or a certain, like, it's not going to be like, He-Man versus like Skeletor or whatever. You know what I mean? It's going to be like this dude or this thing who's now opened its eyes to a new world, and let's learn about this world together, so to speak. And I want to be your tour guide. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's more like that, or like this SCAR unit will be there with you the entire time, and you'll be able to relate to this world through the SCAR unit. And that's kind of, I'm sure there's going to be adversity and stuff like that along the way, but I think it's more of just like a world that we're able to kind of lose ourselves in if we want for a while.
I agree. No, so like quick thinking about this right now is something that I love about what you're talking about is taking a chapter out of Marvel's book, right? Something that I love about Marvel is, love them or hate them, they make incredible movies. But what I loved about it is that like they had these one-off series, well, what I thought was one-off series, but then all of a sudden they tie together in the most beautiful way. When I watched Thor, I had no freaking idea that a couple movies later that him and Captain America and Iron Man were going to be in the same movie. I loved the fact that they lived in the same universe. I loved the fact that they could tie it all together like that. Now, tying that into, the music thing, I think it's freaking awesome because now what you can do with yours is basically say, as you start collaborating with people, then, you tie your story in with other people. So for example, let's say I launch my brand, I create my story, but then you and I collaborate. We can basically have a Marvel moment where like, yes, both of our two things live in the same universe, but they come together at this specific time to do this certain thing. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. And you almost have to, otherwise it cheapens both brands if you don't. You have to make it realistic is what I'm trying to say. You have to make it to where these two brands are meeting. Why? You know what I mean? And you could always find a cool reason why. But absolutely, give the people a story. They want to talk about that stuff. They want it. You know what I mean? Like, a banger is a banger, but they want more, I think. When I was designing my story, like, what I would do is, like, in the beginning, I literally would just write down power words. You know what I mean? And then after I had like 50 to whatever power words, I literally went to a wet dry board and I wrote down all my power words and I started linking words together. And as I developed my story, I would look at my power word board and I'd be like, if this story doesn't relate to the words on the board, then I veered off the track. You see what I'm saying? So that's a pretty good way to start doing something like this, or to keep it so coherent by having an actual word bank to work from. It's kind of crazy.
Okay, that totally makes sense. I like that a lot. Switching gears a little bit. I love that you're a teacher, man. As I mentioned, I literally just graduated from Icon Collective, and I can count on my left hand with 2 fingers down how many times I missed your office hour.
You were there almost every time.
Yeah. You were, I would tell everyone this. You were my favorite teacher. The way you explain things, and I'm sure that people have noticed that from this podcast and from the YouTube version, the way you explain things, it's like there's no room left for interpretation. I know exactly what you mean, and you give such good examples. Tell me about your teaching experience. How has it been teaching? I
love to teach, man. I really, really do. I feel like you understand things 100% better when you actually can explain them. Like, you get it. Like, if I tell you something, you get it. But then if you have to then explain it to somebody else, you may need to go, touch up on some things, because once you have to explain it to somebody, you have to really know it. So for me, so we've all had teachers that like kind of bored us, right? And I feel like it's your job as a teacher to do more than just give information. You have to captivate your audience, your students. You have to captivate them. You have to make them want to learn. Like, even if it's something like silly, like Key's class, or not silly, but things like that, like you're like, oh, I'm going to school to learn this anyway. I get it. But there's a classroom of students that are sitting there, and I have to engage them for 2 hours sometimes. For me, it's like a perfect mix of learning and entertaining, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man.
I feel like I'm always performing.
No, that's fantastic. And so I think it's important to know many of your students that you've taught have went on to great success. One of the first one that I can think of right off the bat is Slander.
Yeah, Scott was in my Keys class. He was a great guy. I like Scott a lot.
Who else have you known from your students that have went on to have great success?
Oh man, there's a lot of. When you say great success, like.
That is a relative term.
It's really a relative term. Like, sure, Slander, they're killing it right now. They're probably one of the biggest DJs around. But there's like so many people that are just doing great work. There's more people than than I can mention. Like almost all the students that like I would believe in or whatever. Like there's got to be people that just come in for the hat. Like I say that all the time. Like a lot of kids are just there for the $30,000 hat. But there's a lot of kids that'll go on to do successful YouTube channels, or their brands are growing. Like one of my friends, Merritt, he's a Happy Hour now. He went from not even having a brand to like now he's up to almost 5,000 followers in like no time at all. I mean, it's crazy. Nolan is killing it. You know what I mean? Like there's so many people that are just murdering it. And Slander is like, they just played main stage of like, EDC. Like that's pretty much the pinnacle of what you want to do. You know what I mean? Like they're like, that's right now they're running it, which is amazing. Dude, it's a good program. And all these cats, man, they're coming in with the right mindset. They're not coming in to be rock stars and do drugs. Like these guys are about their brand, man. They're about making good music. They're about making good videos or just good content, really, is what it comes down to. So, I mean, there's so many students that are coming out of there. Like, what about Sippy from the online one?
Dude, Sippy is incredible.
The more I think about it, the more the names pop into my head. Everybody is doing so well, really. I mean, it's realistic if you want it to be realistic. Does that make sense?
Man. Absolutely. And I'm really glad to have basically an insider into Icon right now. So because I've been wondering this, and I wondered this since day one of starting Icon, is you've seen quite a few students come and go, and I'm sure you'll see quite a few more. What has been some traits that your favorite students have had that your students that you've really just like, okay, I can tell this person has intense potential?
Dude, it's looking for the knowledge. Like I said, there's two types of students, because students, they range from like 18 to 30, and lower and higher. But there's two types of students in my opinion. There's the student that comes there that just wants to tell their friends they went to Icon, and that's fine, whatever. It's like whatever. But then there's the student that comes in, and you'll see them at the office hours. You'll see them because it's funny. Like a lot of these students, just like me and you, have become friends, and we're doing work outside of Icon right now. It's like the interested students are the ones that are going to go further. Obviously,
I agree.
The ones that are meeting up on their own time, not just doing their homework, because that's schoolwork, and that's got nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? Like it does, but it doesn't. Even like you, how you set up this stuff, like with the online meetings and even the stuff that we're doing right now and with Multiplier. I mean, you went above and beyond. I mean, you will succeed. You understand what I'm saying? Like you're one of the students that is going to go somewhere because it's more than a school for you. You're using it as a platform to do what you want to do. And I feel like some students, it's a school and that's all they really think it is. Other students come in and they're like, okay, this is a launching pad into what I want to do. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And thank you so much for saying that. No, but
I mean, it's obvious. I mean, you're like I said, it's clear. Like we're doing it right now. Like, you know what I mean?
Thank you, dude. Someone who just like, he came to my mind, after you said Sippy, this guy came into my mind. It's Maxim, right? I love Maxim. I feel like he is, dude, the guy, I think he's went to more office hours than I have.
Great guy. Always had great questions, challenged me, and I loved it.
Exactly. To me, he's kind of like what you would see as someone that's like, you're going somewhere, dude. Like
100%. How could I not? Like I said, there's several of you guys that came to those office hours every time, and all that shows me is that you're interested, and that's really all I need to see. You know what I mean? Everything else I can teach you. I can't teach you to be interested.
I know, dude. I completely agree. This is interesting because once you get down to the nitty gritty of the music industry, you kind of realize that it's not rocket science. It's really not. It's actually kind of simple. It's just persistence. So for example, what I've noticed is that basically in order to like really make it in the music industry, you need to have at least one of three things. Hopefully you have all of these things, but you need to have at least one of these three things. Number one, you have to have really good music. Number two, you have to have some type of really good resource. Or number three, you just have to be a really cool person. Because you see people all the time in the music industry who are super cool people that don't have resources and don't have really good music, but they're still doing really good, and vice versa with all the other three scenarios.
I agree with all those things you said.
And so what I've noticed is that like actually to make it in the industry, it's not actually that hard. When I was growing up, and I'm sure you were the same, I thought there was some kind of secret sauce that like, some kind of secret, strategy that only the elite really knew. But now, after really seeing it and interviewing so many people and asking you questions and tapping into your resources, it's just like it's really not that hard. You just have to have the correct information once.
I agree with that 100%.
Final question for you, because I actually just got a text from my wife and I need to get going. But this has been fantastic, Jerry. Thank you so much. The last question I have for you, a question that I always ask on the podcast. I'll give you a scenario. You go throughout your life and it's been a fantastic life. You've achieved your dreams. You've achieved your goals. You're truly happy. At the end of your life, now let's say that you're on your deathbed. You look over and you see, let's say you see your firstborn daughter, right? You love her more than anything, and you look at her and you know that this is going to be your posterity that's going to keep going on, and you want to pass on to her one piece of advice or one piece of information to really just like the best piece of advice you've learned throughout your life. What would you say to your daughter?
There's people that say you got to work really hard. And then there's other people that say, you got to connect with people. And that's the most important thing. And unfortunately, this is why it's interesting that you asked me that, because on my deathbed, I would be thinking that I spent my whole life, or at least most of my life, trying to get very good at something and not feeding the social monster at all. And my advice to my daughter would be, it's not black or white, it's gray. Does that make sense?
Yeah, dude. I love that.
It's got to be, because I spent 30 years trying to be hard white or whatever, hard black, it doesn't matter. And it got me nowhere. And as I became more gray, I starting to see much more movement. And that would be my advice to anybody that wants to hear it. It can't be black or white, it has to be gray.
That is fantastic. Jerry, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you and your wisdom and your friendship, man.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Daw Nation. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Behind the Daw with SCARlit. It was super deep, so if you need to go listen to it a couple more times, I'm not mad. If you need to share it with someone and listen to it with them so that you can fully understand it, I'm not even mad again. But seriously, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Behind the Daw. Again, if you're interested in the Patreon, giving suggestions, or private lessons, there are links down in the description. And also, if you could like, comment, subscribe, repost, follow, whatever is appropriate on the particular platform that you're listening on, it could really, really help us out. It doesn't matter if you're on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Deezer, Google Play, YouTube, wherever you are. It just really helps us know that we're moving in the right direction. And finally, please check out the next episode of Behind the Daw that we have going on. It is episode 9.5. It is the In the Daw audio of SCARlit breaking down his song Hood Rat, which is the song playing right now and the song that played in the intro. It's really unique. The guy, as you learned in this podcast, the dude is super smart. That translates over to his production as well. So if you want to learn more about that, go ahead, check it out. With that being said, thank you so much, Daw Nation. You have a fantastic day. We'll talk soon.